30 days.
30 years.
That's 30 days, and that's equal to day for a year, right?
Right.
30 years.
30 years. So how many do we have so far?
390 years.
Very good. The children can do this very simple, right?
Right?
You don't have to be Einstein to figure this out. And now we have 1 day. 1 day, and how many years is that? It's 1 year.
Year.
Okay, so now we got how many?
391
years. Okay, now we got
Half
an
of
hour, 1 hour,
it is 2 weeks.
which is 1/24 of a day.
Right.
In Bible prophecy, that equals 2 weeks. Now, that's 15 days.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
15 days. All right. Now, so how many do we have now? We got 391 years and 15 days, right?
Right.
Okay. Now, remember that Ellen White says that we read it again. So we want to stay on this principle to really catch what we need to understand when it says that God reveals nothing except He revealed it through His servants, the prophets. His secrets are revealed through the prophets, and when they're revealed, it's depicted as when a lion roareth, and it's also a depiction of when God is dealing with idolatry in a certain fashion. Does the papacy have anything to do with idolatry?
Yes?
Yes.
Of the worst kind, right?
Yes?
Right.
Was there any idolatry revealed in the history of ancient Israel that...
Oh, yes.
Yes.
All right. And we've studied here before that the legitimate result of the papacy coming into existence was because of the idolatry of the children of Israel in the past.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things about this time prophecy is when it's fulfilled, it's here at the fulfillment of this time prophecy in Revelation chapter 9 that at the close of this time period, 391 years and 15 days, from July the 27th of 1449 to August 11th, 1840, is the 391 years and 15 days fulfilled to their very letter.
Mm.
When this took place, brothers and sisters, the lion roared. And what he was doing was he was telling us that he was about to take care of the idolatry that's on the planet. Earth. And in so doing, he's establishing himself in this period of history that also is covered in the history involved in Daniel 11, 40 through 45, which is the history of the 144,000. Because here, in the Millerite time period, where we see August 11th, 1840, and the little angel comes down in the book of Revelation chapter 10, verses 1 through 4, and he's described with the little book of Daniel open in his hand, and he's also the angel that's announcing that the seventh trumpet is about to sound. And in so doing, the authority for him that allows him to be able to say that the seventh trumpet is going to sound is coming from the book of Daniel. All the secrets come from the prophets. And one of the main secrets they didn't understand in the Millerite time period was the closing up of the 2300 days. So when you put all this evidence together and you see that God's dealings with men are always the same from age to age, one of the things that's revealed in this thing is that the same history that was done in the Millerite time period is repeated under the history of the 144,000. So when you see 9011 in the year 2001 come to light, it's the same mighty angel, but this time it's Revelation chapter 18, verses 1 through 4. Well, actually it's two parts. This is Revelation chapter 18, verses 1 and 2.
18.
And it's here where Millerite history is being repeated. And what it's pointing us to is when a time prophecy was fulfilled, according to Amos 3 verse 7, he says that I will do nothing except I reveal my secrets to my servants the prophets. This was a secret that was locked up in a time prophecy in association with Islam at the end of the world. For the Millerites, it was the end of the world. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why Sister White says that the history of the Millerites will be repeated to the very letter. Because one of the things it reveals when this mighty angel comes down, it reveals when the last warning message to Babylon, which is the subject of Amos chapter 3 about this idolatry that was set up in Bethel. And the idolatry set up in Bethel, which took place right here under Jeroboam, was the legitimate result of this idolatry was the man of sin.
Jeroboam was the man of sin?
No, he pointed down to the man of sin.
Okay.
When they set up these golden calves, in Bethel in the city of Dan under Jeroboam, what allowed this to take place was back here when in Saul's day they desired to have a king to rule over them, a man instead of God as their king.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
They chose the men or man over God. Man was chosen in the place of God.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do your math, from 1095 to 975 is what, 85 years? 85 years later, Israel was tired of God and they wanted a man to rule over them.
Mm-hmm.
And from that point forward, the apostasy associated with their mixing idolatry with the worship of the true God, it escalates through history. It moves in a progressive fashion until we see the papacy. Now the papacy is the subject of Daniel 11, 40 through 45. That's the subject. The king of the north. In Daniel chapter 11, verses 40 to 45. So one of the things this helps us to see in God's dealing with men is the same in every age is because there's one objective in this story, and that is to get the people of God into a position where they can be with God on the sea of glass and eventually in the earth made new. But there's obstacles in the way of God's task. And one of those obstacles that's in the way of God's task that He has to place these reformatory movements in our history to get us where He wants us to get is this idolatry, under the form of mixing idolatry with the worship of the true God. And where it comes to its real masterpiece, Ellen White says the papacy is the masterpiece of Satan. One of the things that this masterpiece of Satan allows to take place in this history is that it separates God from His people in such a fashion that when it takes place, God sets in action a reformatory movement. Okay, that's what He does. And when He does so, now we can look at these reformatory movements for just a second along this timeline. We can place them now. Now we can match wits with this history to see if it is not so, that God's dealings with men are ever the same. And then we want to take a look at Daniel 11, 40 to 45 and see what it is about these reformatory movements that have their connection according to Ellen White. Her statement is, the important movements of the present have their parallel in those of the past, and the experience of the church in former ages has lessons of great value for our own time.
What page?
Page 343. and of the great controversy. Now, prior to the children of Israel crossing the Jordan, was there a reformatory movement in this history? Which reformatory movement brought the children of Israel to the borders of Canaan when they finally crossed the Jordan? The history that preceded this was the great exodus from Egypt, that reformatory movement. And there was others that were before it, but we'll just start with that one. Well, to be fair, the first reformatory movement is Genesis 3:15.
Yep.
That's the first reformatory movement. And in these reformatory movements, there's one aspect here that is the key that finally allows God's people to arrive on the Sea of Glass. And that is this, that God is going to place enmity, the seed of this read it. Go to Revelation, Genesis. Oh, that was a Freudian slip. Ellen White says that all the books of the Bible meet and end in the book of Revelation. So, in chapter 3, verse 15, it says, "And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel." So this enmity, I'm terrible at spelling.
E-N-M-I-T-Y.
E-N-M-I-T-Y. This enmity is, I know this may seem odd, but this is what it is the third angel's message.
Yeah.
Or you might say the three angels' message causes enmity.
No, I said it like I wanted to say it.
Yep.
Enmity is the third angel's message, because Ellen White makes this comment about the third angel's message. It is, she says, the righteousness of Christ. Okay. Okay. It is the righteousness. I think I did that. No, I got it right. Righteousness of Christ. And that's really what's revealed in this long history. It's revealing that when this lion roared up here on August 11th, 1840, he's carrying out the same means that God used in these other reformatory movements to finally get to the place he wants us to get in human history or sacred history. And where he's taking us in this history is to the sounding of the seventh trumpet. Now, under the sounding of the seventh trumpet, I was going to bring a book, and I forgot to bring it today. I'll have to bring it next week. But there was a book by J.N. Andrews called The Judgment, Its Events, and Their Order. And it's a classic, and it must be read by everybody who are studying the books of Daniel and Revelation, especially if you want to understand Millerite history in the context of the seven thunders. One of the things about the seven thunders that I was going to mention a minute ago is when the lion roars in Revelation chapter 10, he's bringing in to history under the raising up of the Millerites, the events that would take, the last events that would take place under the sounding of the sixth trumpet, which are described by his roaring as a lion, and John heard them, and they were called the seven thunders. So, seven thunders are the secrets that the prophets are able to tell, which we didn't hear this morning. The seven thunders are the secrets that the prophets are able to tell, and the way they're told is when Christ